I was walking through the halls of a Minnesota rink when along came a wild fan who started talking smack to me. He said, I bet you never liked the Blues until they won a cup. And so I calmly turned to him and said, hey man, listen up. I admit it's pretty great to win Lord Stanley's prize, but listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues. I know Arbor, Unger, Picker, Plager, Rab, McDonald, Shock, Hall, Chris Moore, Patey, Harvey, Jimmy, Robert, Saberin, Berenson, Thompson, Eggers, Hess, Roberto, Pierre, Plant, Jacques, Plant, Gossip, Merrick, Vince, Urbano, Stevenson, Davidson, St. Marseille, McCreary, Leftley, Ecclestone, Huck, Palisari, Talbot, Keenan, Sandy, Yassi. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues.
And now, the starting lineup for your Bluenotes podcast. Tom Franklin and the man called Wags.
Thank you, Tom Calhoun, and welcome to Bluenotes, located on the best city on the Mississippi, the best in the Midwest. We've got that Stanley Cup power, too sweet to be sour. And if you're still clueless, we're talking about St. Louis. This is your home for St. Louis Blues coverage on the Hockey Podcast Network. I am your halfway competent co-host, Tom Franklin, joined as always by my better half in this podcasting venture, the man called Wags. How's it going, bud?
Oh, it's going great. It's just been another interesting week as we lead up to the start of the NHL season. And we thought we were going to be trying to find things to talk about. Well, guess what? The NHL and the Blues did just enough for us to talk about today.
Well, yeah, we were just going to have our friends at the QUACK Report on this episode, and we still are, just for kind of like a getting to know you kind of a conversation about the Ducks and the Pacific Division as a whole. And we'll be joined by them here in a little bit. But Monday, some things dropped, and we need to talk about those things. First things first, if it's the St. Louis Blues and their AHL affiliate, it is never a dull moment. And once again, the St. Louis Blues will not have their AHL affiliate to start the year. Again, they have lost their affiliate again, although it's just for this season, I think. The Springfield Thunderbirds joined Charlotte and Milwaukee in opting out this year for the AHL, and there was a letter that the Thunderbirds put out that I thought was, pretty heartfelt, and they basically explained that they made a difficult decision to opt out of playing. They've worked with the Blues, but there's health and safety concerns, travel logistics, new player supply rules, and other considerations. One thing that they made a big point about, and I'll just go ahead and read this paragraph verbatim, quote, given the current status of COVID-19 in Massachusetts, it has also become clear that we will be unable to host fans, the lifeblood of our organization, at our games in the foreseeable future. As an independently owned franchise, our foremost obligation is to ensure that our team is financially viable for the long term, something that is not possible without game day revenue. We have always had a long-term vision to bring T-Birds hockey to our entire community, and we feel that this decision, although painful right now, puts us in the best position to do so for many years to come. So really, I think it boiled down to, Springfield is a franchise that I don't want to say they've been in financial trouble, but, a big part of what they are is, getting game day attendance, and it just was not in the cards for them this year.
No, it wasn't. And, you talk about what the Blues had in San Antonio. Well, San Antonio had the fact that they were part of the Spurs organization. And the Spurs are an NBA team that brings in a lot of money, gives them a little bit more leeway and flexibility. And yes, now they're a part of the Vegas organization and independently owned there, so they may have some issues there. But that's what it comes down to. Is if you don't have that big benefactor at the top of the chain, you got to do what's right and what will allow you to continue long term. And it makes a ton of sense. And the fact that they're not the only AHL team that's making this decision makes me feel a little bit better about sharing another team for our prospects, because we've had that in the past with the Chicago Wolves, and it's just been pretty bad, to be honest. And now you're going to be sharing with the Utica Comets, sharing with Vancouver. That could be pretty interesting in a certain sense as well. But it's not going to be the Blues as the only team that's going to have to experience this. So that makes it a little bit more palatable.
So since the Blues left Peoria, they've had interesting relations with the Chicago Wolves, and they've had to do some player sharing there. And then for their last year in Chicago, they also shared players with San Antonio because Chicago went to Vegas, and then San Antonio was still with Colorado. So you had a weird split with the Blues prospects, like Sammy Blais and Binnington were in Chicago for a while, and then you had like Klim Kostin in San Antonio and some of the other younger guys. And then you get San Antonio all to yourself for like a season or two, and then Vegas buys them, and so you're out of San Antonio now, and you get Springfield, a team that is an independently owned team that is all yours. This is your baby. You can help dictate who coaches. And it sounds like a great thing, and then COVID happens, and they're not going to have a season now in Springfield. So I feel like someone in Peoria is a witch and put a curse on the Blues for dumping the Rivermen, because the Blues had a long, stable relationship with the Peoria Rivermen, and now look at them. Doesn't it feel like we're cursed a little bit?
It does. It feels like our AHL team is the Cubs of the AHL, cursed and always trying to find traction. And thankfully, and I'll say this, thankfully, through all of the turmoil that's gone down with the AHL, our players have still gotten good experience and have come up and produced. Now, it has affected the likes of a guy like Klim Kostin and Jordan Kyrou, where maybe they haven't gotten the playing time that they probably should have gotten to this point, and that's affected their NHL careers. But I still think for what's gone down, they've progressed decently.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I'm looking at the AHL 2020-21 divisional alignment right now, and Springfield, along with those two other teams, basically cuts the Atlantic in half. You have a 3-team division in the Atlantic: Bridgeport, Hartford, and Providence. Kind of surprised they didn't move a team or two from the north to kind of balance them out, but hey, that's not my league. But the Blues will be allowed to send players to Utica this year. They did come to an agreement with the Utica Comets, who are the current affiliates of the Vancouver Canucks. They are in the North Division, where there are 7 teams. And it'll be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see, because Vancouver is in the All-Canadian Division, and Utica is in New York in the United States. How's that going to work? I mean, I guess Vancouver needs to really make sure their taxi squad is stocked up, because there's going to be issues if they need to pull someone from Utica to play for the Canucks this year.
Yeah, it really is. And that actually kind of leads into my question about the taxi squad as well, because we talked about Joel Hofer being a guy that might be on the taxi squad. Well, now that you're sharing your prospects with an AHL team, does this make it more or less likely that Joel Hofer is that taxi squad goalie? Because if he's not getting the regular playing time at Utica, I would much rather see him play with the taxi squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of the same way here, especially because teams like say for Vancouver and Utica, for instance, Vancouver is going to want their goalie to be, starting more of the games in Utica. So you're kind of in a situation. I think you almost kind of, halfway kind of prophesied Joe Hofer having a Jordan Binnington type of a trek. Binnington had to go to Providence, for just to get some game time in. Are you in a situation now where you have to do the same for Joel Hofer now? Or would you rather just, mitigate the issue, have him train with the team all year, and just keep him on the taxi squad? I'm kind of leaning towards that instead of messing around with the AHL this year. So that's what's going on with the AHL. Never a dull moment with the Blues and their affiliates, that's for sure. Moving on now. So we've covered that. We need to cover the other big thing that came out on Monday, and that is the starting times for the St. Louis Blues this season. And it seems like the NHL officials heard our pleas and I feel this is a pretty fair breakdown. If you're watching this, I have Jeremy Rutherford's tweet of the breakdown of start times, the Blues 28 road games in Central Time. You have 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 1 apiece, 2 at 6 p.m., 4 at 7 p.m., which is 4 more than I thought that the Blues would be getting, honestly. But then you do have some late starts. You have an 8 p.m. Central Time start 9 times. That's the most, which is still better than 9 p.m. for most of us. 8:30 p.m. two times, 9 p.m. 5 times, 9:30 p.m. 3 times, including the opener against Colorado. So I'm glad they put out the start times. I'm glad we know what they're going to be now, and I'm glad that they're, for the most part, I feel pretty fair.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, 10 of the games starting after 8 o'clock, 10 of 56. I'm good with that. That's what 5.6% of the games are late games, and that's probably right in line with the amount of games that you would have at that time during a normal season with normal travel. So I feel like this is par for the course for what a Blues season would look like, and I'm down with it. And like you said in the past, talking about these California teams, so many people working from home in California, it doesn't really matter what time these games start because they can have them on their TV at any point in time. And honestly, I've started to look at some homes in California because if I can be working from home and watching hockey all day, I might want to do that.
I was kind of looking at Vegas, and maybe some areas around Vegas, as possible work from home, places. You don't, if you have snow, it's an apocalypse in Vegas. I mean, that's how rare they get snow. I think it's like literally snowed one time in the city's history. You get deserts, you get the casinos. You're not too far from Utah where there's beautiful, places to ski and hike and all that stuff. I almost took a job a couple years ago in St. George, Utah. Beautiful area. Didn't quite work out though. But yeah, these start times, I digress. I feel they're pretty fair. We were going to have to bite the bullet at some point here with some of these start times, but all in all, pretty fair. We'll talk to the Quack Report guys about that and see, get kind of the Anaheim point of view of, maybe because I did notice a couple of the Blues games in Anaheim will be starting at 5 their time. So I want to, we'll talk a little bit about how that affects them, because as you mentioned, a lot of people working from home in Anaheim. So we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, training camp is going, and we're getting kind of our first look at how the Blues lines might shape up here. And let's go ahead and take a look at another Rutherford tweet here. In the second pairing, or the second line rather, Robert Thomas is centering Jaden Schwartz on the left, and not Braden Shen, but Mike Hoffman on the right. So Coach Berube throwing us a bit of a curveball here. We had assumed, probably erroneously, that they were going to keep Schwartz and Shen together and O'Reilly and Perron together just because those are that's just the way it's been. But here, Berube breaks up Schwartz and Shen so that Thomas is centering Schwartz and Hoffman. And then on the first line, you have O'Reilly centering David Perron and Braden Shen, which that sounds like a tasty line. But what do you think about pairing Robert Thomas with Mike Hoffman?
Very, very interesting because, we've talked in the past about Hoffman's lack of defense ability, and I figure pairing him with Ryan O'Reilly would bring out some defensive capabilities in him. But I tell you what, you get a guy like Robert Thomas that has the silky passes that he does, and feeding him to Mike Hoffman in a myriad of positions, and Hoffman able to score from those spots. That being your second line, that's pretty damn salivating right there.
It really is. And I feel this is Berube trying to give Robert Thomas the best chance to succeed as he can by establishing a partnership with a just deadly sniper like Hoffman. And of course, Jaden Schwartz, as we know, is kind of a Swiss Army knife of a forward. He can do a little bit of everything. He can score a little, he can pass a little. So that's a good pairing. And then on the other side, you have Shen moving along with O'Reilly and Perron. Now we know what O'Reilly and Perron can do together. We know that Shen, I feel there's a 25 to 30 goal scorer lying in Braden Shen. Get him next to a great playmakers like O'Reilly and Perron. That line could be deadly.
Yeah. I mean, and that gives you two deadly scoring lines. And we talked earlier this week about Robert Thomas being at center, being a top 6 center, and the responsibility and the pressure that's now going to be on him being that center of the second line. That's the one thing that does scare me a little bit about putting him with Hoffman and Schwartz. Now, Schwartz is definitely a capable two-way defender, But now Robert Thomas is going to have to make up for what Mike Hoffman might not be able to do. And to put that on a 21-year-old kid, that's a little scary for me. But he's got a maturity that most 21-year-olds don't have. And Coach Berube seems to be always pushing the right buttons, pulling the right strings. I don't think he'd be putting him in this position if he didn't feel like Robert Thomas could handle it or actually be able to produce in this instance. So it's a little scary to me, but I'm going to put my faith and trust in Berube and hope it works out this year.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Of course, by the time you listen to this, Berube may have shuffled the lines up again for all we know. So this could even be outdated by the time you listen to this. We'll see about that. At the rate that news is coming in, it definitely could be. And then, of course, for day one of training camp, we were talking a little bit about Vince Dunn yesterday and kind of where he ends up. He is, as I think we all predicted, on the third pairing. Krug and Parayko are the top pairing. Scandella and Falk are the second. And then you have Vince Dunn paired up with Robert Bortuzzo. So doesn't look like, at least right off the bat, that Dunn's going to get those, top 4 minutes that a lot of Blues fans have been looking for. But shout out to Luke Whitman. He called Vince Dunn and Robert Bortuzzo being on the same pairing with the idea that Bortuzzo can maybe help, a little bit more on his own end than perhaps, say, a Justin Falk. So what do you think about these pairings starting out here?
I think with the fact that you only have a 2-week training camp, you're not going to have preseason games. You kind of have to go with what you know.
Yeah.
And right now that's what it is. And, Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, had Darren Pang on his show last week and talked about this exact thing and how you may actually see a lot of changes to the defensive pairing. You may see Krug and Falk playing together because they played at the at World Championships before. So just like we talk about the forwards and how Berube will probably change that a million times between now and when you're listening to this, I would not anticipate the defense being the same way, where you may not see game in and game out the same 3 sets of pairings. And I think Dunn will eventually work his way up and get some games where he's in the top 4. I think you'll see him play with Parayko in certain instances, especially against certain teams. And I think you're going to see a lot of more matchup play with what's going on right now in the league. So don't set this in stone as what you think this is your 3 pairings are going to be, because you also have to think you got Gunnarsson and Perunovic and Mikkola that are going to need to filter into this as well. So expect to see a lot of different pairings throughout the next, 56 games.
Yeah, definitely. And it still wouldn't surprise me. Like I can tell these pairings are like the idealistic pairings based on what you know about these players going into the season. But, if Dunn develops, if Scandella kind of falters a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like a Dunn and Parayko, and then you would have like a Krug and Falk and Scandella and Bortuzzo, something like that. That Berube's going to flex his lines a little bit, and I'm sure Dunn will get his chance. I do like the first comment, though, by the typical Blues fan there, Mike Finkelstein on Twitter. Honestly, just put Dunn and Falk together. Easier for the fan base when the Whipping Boys are on the ice together. And for the love of God, get Vince Dunn more ice time. So you gotta love that. Like that guy sounds like an old school, like 590 the fan caller, calling Kevin Slayton, with that just this typical St. Louis cynicism. You gotta love it.
All you got to do is throw up Jay Fresh's, slide of Vince Dunn. And if that doesn't tell you and prove to you that that's a bogus comment, then I don't think anything else will, because we talked with Jay Fresh about that. He's never really gone up against these top pairing guys.
No.
And he doesn't track to do well against him. Yes, he's got a lot of high offensive upside, but his defense is never going to be considered elite. And honestly, I'm still not 100% sold on his offensive capabilities either, because we talk many, many times about him putting shots into skates of defenders, especially when it's the last guy back. And Parayko's a guy that's over the years has progressed, every year gotten better at a certain aspect of his game. I look at Vince Dunn, and yes, he's gotten a lot of really, really good moments, but in certain instances, he has not progressed year over year. And that's the thing I'm worried about. Now, if he goes out there this year and just starts putting stuff on net like crazy and his defensive game ups itself, I'll eat my words. But I haven't seen that yet. And that's my big worry.
Well, you need to give him, the right exposure to see if he can handle that. And that's kind of the rub with Dunn, is that he has not gotten, a lot of that top 4 time. Now, I personally just because I enjoy watching, train wrecks and chaos from time to time, I do want to see Dunn and Falk together just to see what happens, because that to me is the chaos pairing of the St. Louis Blues, because they both have offensive chops. And they might very well be, a power play, tandem, going forward. But on 5-on-5, trying to watch Vince Dunn and Justin Falk play defense, the phone lines at 590 and 101 ESPN will blow up because of the antics that will surely ensue.
Yes.
That's scary.
And you've got Cam Jansen over there at 590, so I'm sure he'll take all those phone calls.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've kept our friends from the Quack Report waiting. Let's go ahead and bring them in here after we tell you about one of our great Hockey Podcast Network podcasts.
I'm Corey Crenshaw.
I'm Richie Suave Flores.
And this is Sporty with Corey and Richie Suave.
On the Hockey Podcast Network.
What did I just listen to?
Oh, this game is just bullshit now.
Oh my gosh. They actually made me feel uncomfortable. What was it? Panty what?
The game has gone to bullshit.
Panty melted?
Why do we record these during the middle of games? Oh, God. Be sure to listen to Corey and I every Monday. We are your go-to source for the Arizona Coyotes on the Hockey Podcast Network.
It's the Bluenotes Face-Off of the Week.
And that beautiful NHL 94 music means it is time once again for our Bluenotes Face-Off of the Week. And this time we are joined by the co-hosts of the Quack Report on the Hockey Podcast Network, covering all things Anaheim Ducks, Carter Potts and Nate Thomas. How's it going, guys?
Doing pretty good. How about you guys?
We're doing all right. We're getting over losing our AHL affiliate again, coming to terms with that. It's one bad relationship after another. But you pick up the pieces and you move on. But I'm very excited for this interview. I even prepared for it by bringing out Mr. Wild Wing, which, by the way, I was glad to hook one of you guys up with my dealer. I'm at my jersey seller for the Wild Wings. So
come on, that's what they are, is dealer. They're essentially drug dealers.
Yeah, he really is.
Take a look all behind me. They are drug dealers. So like pro hockey, cool hockey. These guys are drug dealers.
You shop at Cool Hockey, you shop at the team store, but when you have a guy on Reddit that you private message, for your hookup, that at that point crosses over into dealer territory. Okay, and Ben H Sports is my dealer. So make sure to be nice to him. He's the guy is slinging jerseys all day long. It's crazy.
I was so close to getting the jersey, but unfortunately, I got reminded that it's my birthday this month, so maybe I won't be getting anything. So, but
might be surprised in a few weeks there.
Maybe.
Need to let one of your family members just slip by. Oh, by the way, there's this guy named Ben H Sports on Reddit. He sells jerseys really cheap, and it's my birthday.
Carter, there you go. There's a guy called Ben H Sports on Reddit, and it's all my birthday.
Yeah. Tell him Tom from St. Louis sent you.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Well, first of all, you're Ducks fans, but you both are from Lethbridge, Alberta, which is about 2 hours south of Calgary, and actually not too far from the U.S. border. So, how did you two come to be Ducks fans?
It was kind of an interesting story, actually. So we started our own podcast a year ago, just, random general hockey talk, and had some beers and just hanging out, just for something to do and something for fun. And the host of the network, Isha and Dylan, reached out to us on Twitter a couple episodes in, and they were like, hey, we're looking for people to host this Ducks podcast, and you guys have like great chemistry. You want to join? And we were like, well, we don't like the Ducks. And they were like, well, well, that's okay. Like we have lots of hosts that aren't really fans of their team, but they grow to like them and do a good job. And we're like, okay, but we don't really like the Ducks. So eventually we hemmed and hawed, and we started hosting it. And I'm an Oilers fan, as you can see by the Nuge jersey here.
Yeah.
Nate's a Flames fan. So bit of a bad blood there between us and the Ducks, but we kind of grew to love them, and there hasn't been too bitter of a rivalry between those teams in the last couple of years. So yeah, we kind of just grew with the team and appreciated them for what they did, and then eventually bought jerseys for ourselves, and now we're Ducks fans.
I'm actually even looking for my third jersey right now. I have the orange alternate, and I did get my hands on an original like Mighty Ducks jersey. So,
ooh, nice. You probably paid a pretty penny for that too, because those aren't very out there on the wild.
Actually, it wasn't too bad. It was like 60
really
Canadian, I think. So it's maybe like 45 American or something like that. So
that's not bad,
and it's in like pretty good condition. I'm not gonna lie. So
I know, because I know if you want the original Wild Wing, the one that's green,
those are pricey.
You're paying like 500, 600 American minimum for them, because they were an abomination when they came out, and they're just. But now it's like. Now it's been 20 years removed. They're collector's items. So, idiots like me, pay up the, wazoo for the few that are still out there. It's just crazy. By the way, Wags, which one of us is the Blackhawks fan here, so we can have the same dichotomy that Nate and Carter have? I can't imagine co-hosting a podcast with a Blackhawks fan. So Oilers and Flames, that's interesting.
Well, I'll put it this way: it's probably going to be me, because I like the Blues reverse retro jersey and it features the red. So I guess I'm going to be pigeonholed as being the Blackhawks fan.
You also dated a Chicago Blackhawks fan for a while.
I did. So. Yeah, unfortunately, I probably will be the Hawks guy.
He's got the dark side in him already. It's terrible.
It was interesting on our first show that we started too, because we had a third guy for a little bit, and he was a Colorado fan. So it was like a 3-way rivalry between all of us. So those episodes got pretty heated when our teams played.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. Well, you're talking about your teams. The Ducks, they're not far removed from having good seasons. 2017-18, Ducks had 101 points and were second in the division. Then they dropped to 80 and 67 points, respectively. From what you guys have seen, what is probably the main reason for the drop-off in those recent years?
I can answer, I guess, this first. I honestly just want to say age and just trying to catch up now with the NHL as it's being played. It's a lot younger, it's a lot faster, it's a lot more skillful. I think our GM has been definitely moving the team in that direction, and it wasn't kind of a too late type thing, like, because we were able to keep up until 2017, 2018. But yeah, I think it was just age, right? So, and they saw that coming right away with the buyout of Corey Perry. Ryan Getzlaf is on the last year of his deal coming up here, so we'll kind of see what happens there, but he can at least still play. I see him seeing second line minutes this coming season. But yeah, I think it was really just age that kind of got up to us. So, which, I mean, that's not a bad way to, have to go into a rebuild, just because you had, guys who made you successful. So.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And, despite the struggles that the Ducks have had in recent years, as we talked about before we started recording, the Ducks have actually played the Blues pretty tough. The Blues have a 5-4 record, and they have a 28-23 goal differential. So the games have been generally close. Does having the Avalanche and the Blues, though, not just in your division, but on the schedule 8 times apiece, give you any jitters?
I'd say a little bit. Yeah, it's I think our big problem last year was consistency with the team. I think we would like really improve our game against some of the tougher rivals like Vegas, and against other teams like the California teams. I think we'd really play down to them. And so I think our team has potential to play, a couple good games. If say you have a back-to-back against Vegas and then Colorado or something like that, and likely might get one of those 2 games. But I think now that we're seeing some tougher teams more, I think fatigue will start to set in. And especially some of our young guys will start to make those rookie mistakes more often. So it'll be good experience for them. And, in a few years, we might look back and be like, what, this might be a good thing. But I think in the present, it's going to really take a toll on some of the young guys.
Yeah, and before we sat down to talk to you guys, we talked about how some of the West Coast start times for the Blues are being adjusted. So it's not so late for us here in St. Louis. Some Blues games in Anaheim are going to start at 5 p.m. on weekdays, your time. Do you see that being a big deal for Anaheim fans?
I mean, maybe if you're thinking about like TV schedule or that, maybe not so much. You can kind of change it up a little bit. I mean, I think everybody's kind of routines and whatnot have changed throughout the whole pandemic. So why not throw in one more curveball? You gather the family around, around the living room, get some TV trays. And I mean, I know it's maybe not the healthiest thing, but have supper and watch the game, right? Just make sure you don't knock over your food when you stand up to cheer.
Yeah, that's how my family did it growing up. Me and my dad, we there were many times where he would get home around 6:30 and whip up something really quick, and then by the time 7 o'clock rolled around and the Cardinals game came on, we would sit down with our trays and watch McGuire hit number 62. I distinctly remember literally like the moment my TV tray hit the floor in front of me, that's when McGuire hit number 62. That just ain't nothing wrong with TV trays. You're still getting the family together for memories. So, speaking of memories, you guys signed one of our former favorites here in St. Louis, Kevin Shattenkirk, this offseason. Pretty reasonable 3-year deal that pays him $3.9 per. Do you guys feel that we saw the real Shattenkirk in Tampa, the one that kind of resurrected his career a little bit? Or is there a concern that you're getting the Shattenkirk that flamed out in New York?
I mean, that's a tough question. It's really hard to say. I don't think he's going to be, as good as he was in St. Louis, especially, because he's older. But I think he's going to have kind of that same role as Getzlaf, that veteran presence in the dressing room. And I think that's kind of the big thing for having him around. I don't expect him to be putting up, 40, 50 points in the season, but I expect him to, help out the young guys, maybe get 20 points, just be solid defensively. So I guess to more directly answer your question, I think we'll see flashes of how he was in Tampa Bay, but not quite to that level, maybe.
Who do you see him being paired up with in Anaheim? Maybe Lindholm, Manson? Who?
In training camp, he's been paired with Lindholm for the last few days. So I would, and it sounds like that's going well. He's compared Lindholm to kind of a younger Victor Hedman, so that makes me really excited for that. So I think there's some good chemistry there, and I think that's at least what we'll see at the beginning of the season.
It's kind of funny hearing the words Kevin Shattenkirk and solid defense. So that's a little crazy for us here in St. Louis.
Yeah, he was a bit of
the longest time it was weird. For the longest time, it was weird hearing St. Louis Blues and Stanley Cup champion. So I mean, things change.
Oh, we were trying to be cordial.
Hey, no, I'm not saying that as an insult or as a joke. I didn't take that long without a Stanley Cup, right? Like it does just, it's a little bit different to say.
And you go along as a fan of a team that doesn't have a Stanley Cup, and yeah, it was weird for us too. So I didn't take it as a shot.
I still feel weird saying it because it's never been part of the lexicon of St. Louis sports talk. It's always been what the Blues did, what to lose again. So yeah, I totally understand it. Let's talk a little bit about the strengths for the Ducks coming in this year. What is Anaheim's biggest strength heading into this season?
I want to say right away it's goaltending, and that was the biggest strength last year also. Like Carter talked about our consistency last year. That was the one consistent every single game, whether it was John Gibson or Ryan Miller in net, you knew you had a shot at winning with either one of those guys in net. It was whatever the other forwards and defensemen really did that would get you a win or not. So
yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think a lot of fans that maybe not even be too in tune with Anaheim, can think, oh yeah, they have John Gibson, so they're okay, at least in that regard. And then St. Louisans won't say you're okay with Ryan Miller because he kind of burned us when we got him from Buffalo, and he was the goalie who shall not be named for me for a very long time for a very reason. He just I've recovered. So if your strength is in net, what's your biggest weakness?
I would just say putting pucks in the back of the net. We don't really have that bona fide number one goal scorer or point scorer. And that was one of our big things last year. Is our top guy had 40 points near the end of the season or 50 points. So not bad, but also not great. Like, some of those teams where they have one or two players that are up in the 80s. So I think we just need to find or develop that number one shooter or just someone that puts more pucks on net.
I mean, like it's kind of a double-edged sword almost in a way where like we would like to have that main guy to go for the offense, right? But at the same time, it's nice that the points were so kind of almost evenly distributed across the team, right? So it showed that it was a real team, I guess. But yeah, definitely would like to, obviously see more points come from as many players as possible.
Well, and I guess in that same vein, then, who is the breakout player that fans should be looking for? Obviously, you got guys like Milano and Raquel and Silverberg, but is there one person on this team that you're going to be looking at as being the breakout star?
I'm really excited personally to see Sonny Milano just off of the few games that we had from him last year before the pause. He and Ryan Getzlaff especially, and we talked about this on our most recent episode as well. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but they just picked up chemistry right away. And it did kind of surprise me being like Ryan Getzlaff, an older player, and Milano, a younger player, if you want to call him that. But yeah, just the way that it worked out seemingly right away. So I'm interested to see more Milano with Getzlaff, but Milano in general.
Yeah, and I'd say Trevor Zegras as kind of like a, I don't want to say sleeper, but kind of more of a hot take, I guess, for making the team this year. I mean, he's been awesome in the World Juniors for Team USA, so I'd really like to see him at least get a shot and get his 7 games in for the team, and hopefully he can get most of a season in and get some experience in the NHL. So.
Yeah, good choices there, but we're disappointed that you didn't say David Backus was going to be the breakout star. I mean, the what is he, like 38, 39 now? We still like Backus here in St. Louis. I mean, I guess he's going to be a fourth liner, maybe a taxi squad guy for you guys this year.
Yeah, I'd probably say that. So,
yeah.
Yep, no, I don't doubt that. We got a couple of those here in St. Louis as well.
One of them just retired.
Yeah, one of them did just retire, Alex Steen. I haven't looked at that Western Division. We made our picks earlier this week on how we thought it was going to shake out. We had Anaheim somewhere in that 4th through 6th place mix. And really, how do you guys see the entire Western Division playing out, and where do you guys see Anaheim falling?
I think that 4 to 6 range is pretty reasonable. Probably more so the 6 than the 4, but you never know. Anything can happen throughout an NHL season. So I kind of think of it as 2 groups. You got the Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis, and who's the other one I'm missing?
Vegas.
I was thinking Minnesota. So I guess those 3. I guess those 3, and then the other one's the California teams plus Arizona. And I guess Minnesota being in the kind of that in between one. So those are my 3 groups. So I'd say I guess probably more 5 to 7 is where Anaheim would be, and it's really tough to say.
I feel pretty confident in saying that 4 to 6 range as well. But I think it's more dependent on not necessarily the Ducks themselves, but Minnesota and Arizona specifically. Like, I mean, there's always the joke of, the Minnesota mild, and that's what they've been forever. They've always been that middle team. They can be all right. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's not
Boring.
a whole lot going on. So I mean, if Anaheim gets a jump on them, they could easily be above them. And I think the biggest issue for Arizona, and it has been for the last 2 seasons, has been them staying healthy. If they're healthy, they can play up to the level of St. Louis, Colorado, and Vegas. Absolutely. But, if they get bogged by injuries, and especially in a shortened season, that's really going to hurt them and put them lower than they should be, probably. So.
Yeah, Arizona seems to be the real wild card team of this group. I mean, the Vegas guys had them all had Arizona in dead last, although I think that was partly trolling on their part. A little bit of a desert rivalry going on there. We had them in 4th. Myself, Wags, the Hawaii Blues fan, and Luke Whitman, who does our intro music. We all think that Arizona has what it takes to be 4th. But so. And there is a consensus, and as you kind of mentioned, that the top 3 might be some order of Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas. You can flip them around, and that seems to be the consensus. The 4th place spot, it seems to be one that kind of comes up for debate. Again, Arizona's kind of a wild card. Is Talbot going to be, worth a darn in Minnesota? Is he going to help propel them, any more than Dubnyk did? I don't think so either, Wags. I really don't. And in fact, I think I overrated Minnesota in my ratings. I'm regretting that. But let's just say the 56 games have been played, and it's Anaheim in that 4th spot and going to the playoffs. tell me how that happens. If just give your fans some hope. How will Anaheim secure that 4th playoff spot?
Goaltending has to stay consistent as it was last year, 100%. And I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier, but we need some actual. I mean, obviously the game is who can put the more pucks in the net, but if we can finally figure out that and our special teams, especially, because that was another inconsistency. They would have some great games, especially later on in the season, but early on, it was just not happening, both for the penalty kill and the power play.
Yeah, I'm basically just going to echo what you say and just say consistency is the big one. I have no problem with our goaltending. I think that's going to be consistent. It's just if everyone else on the roster can be consistent. I'm going to contradict myself from what I said earlier. I don't think we're going to have that 80-point guy that's going to physically drag us up to that 4th place spot. But I think if we can get 6 to 8 guys that put up 50 points in the season, that'll be enough to get us into that 4th spot.
I think the easiest way to sum up our inconsistencies last year was we could hang with guys like St. Louis, but we will get shut out by Corey Schneider 2 games into it.
Oh, God.
Ouch. That was a rough episode, let me tell you.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I write for Last Word on Hockey, and I recently did kind of a breakdown of the teams in the West and teams in the Central and how the Blues have fared against them over the past 3 years. And it was interesting that the Blues really play up to the Vegases and the Colorados of the league. Against the best, the Blues play well. Against the worst, the Blues play well. So basically, I think they completely own Los Angeles at this point, which is actually weird to say because for a long time it was the other way around. But it's that nougaty middle that the Blues have issues with. They tend to play down to teams, kind of as you mentioned, and sometimes they take their foot off the gas pedal. For instance, our bogey team in the West, the team that we're probably, Wags, and you can confirm this, that we're most scared of is Arizona. Because Arizona owns our asses, and I don't know why.
Well, they're them in Nashville. I mean, when you did your comparisons, they in Nashville were the only teams that we had negative goal differentials against, and it's because they play the same style as the Blues in a sense. And whenever you're going up against a team that mirrors your style, there's going to be a struggle, and the Blues just can't seem to get over that hump.
Yeah, definitely, and it's an interesting problem to have. And by the way, Wags, you mentioned our rivals, Nashville. We're going to give you guys, Nate and Carter, a chance to talk some smack to any THPN podcast right here, right now. Who are your rivals in Anaheim? Lay it out there for us. This is your floor.
I'm probably never going to get invited onto the show again, but I'm going to go with San Jose and the Stick Hungry Boys.
Good choice.
Yeah, I was going to say the LA Kings, so I guess we're just bashing on the rest of California here.
so it really is a 3-way triangle of hate in California.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Well, Carter, Nate, where can we find you guys on Twitter or on social media anywhere?
Well, you can follow our show, The Quack Report, at Quack Report Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We also live stream our episodes every Sunday, which you can catch on the Hockey Podcast Network's YouTube and Facebook page. And then you can follow myself at Carter_Potts, POTTS _97. If you're watching the video, it's just in the lower left corner of my video here.
Gotcha.
And if you want to find me on social media as well, you can find me on Twitter at Tatenomas. That's TATENHOMAS.
All right, very good. The Quack Report representing the Anaheim Ducks, a team that the Blues will be facing 8 times this season. Looking forward to that. And any final thoughts, Wags?
No, just a great conversation. It's great to meet the rivals in a sense, especially from the western side of the country, because we're used to the Central, and now that we're in the West, it's nice to get to know the people that are going to be covering those teams as well.
Yeah, and we're getting to know our friends at with Vegas Weekly Nightly a little bit more, because they love to remind us that they signed Alex Pietrangelo this offseason. And they're gonna rub it in our faces anytime they can.
Who's got a cup? Who's got a cup?
Yeah, we got that cup. We not only did we go to the dance, we finished the dance. So Vegas can't say that at the moment, and half their team's probably going to be traded away to accommodate Pietrangelo. So you know what? hell. I mean, we're
wrong.
yeah, exactly. It's just such a weird situation there, and they probably won't be on our show anytime soon either. So, we're going around meeting our new neighbors in the West. They might be last if we get them on at all at this point. So, alrighty, guys, that'll do it for us here at Bluenotes. We want to thank you for listening and watching, because without you, there is no me, there is no Wags, there is no Quack Report, and there is no Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Tom Franklin, reminding you to not be a chump and always play to the whistle.
A reminder that you can follow Bluenotes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bluenotes Pod. I'm the voice of the Blues, Tom Calhoun. Jeremy Boyer, play us out.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL. New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.